Here are 9 rules for hiring a contractor so your project gets delivered on time, on budget, and you minimize the amount of hassle you get. So there's 3 types of contractors. We have the guy with a truck. He usually works solo. He's good for small jobs. Also makes for a great handyman, and sometimes they are a skilled tradesman. The downside of that is that they are not good for big jobs. So if you're doing anything significant, you do not want that type of contractor. Type number 2 is a crew. So typically it's a guy with a crew that has enough work to have employees. So these small crews, they're actually not equipped to handle the responsibilities, liabilities of bigger projects if things go wrong. So if you have a bigger project, I would not go with a crew simply because of the risk. And then the third type of contractor, the business. They are the real deal. They typically have 20 plus employees that are working for them. They have all the insurance, the liability. They can handle things if the project goes wrong or if there's hiccups and things like that. So there's pros and cons. You would go with a guy with a truck if it's a very small project and there's not a big risk. So it's also the cheapest option there. The business is the most expensive option, but you'll have more certainty that the project will get delivered, and then you're covered if something does go wrong. So typically there's 3 major concerns when you're doing renovations or you're hiring a contractor: quality, speed, and cost. So one thing is, if cost is a concern, you can actually hire a contractor during the winter. Winter is a less busy season, at least in Canada when there's snow. So winter is less busy, so they'll have less work, so you can, haggle down a little bit, get a better price. The other thing is you want to have realistic expectations, so you can't have high quality, high speed at the cheapest cost, right? It doesn't work that way. So typically if you want something that is of high quality, you'll have to pay for it, and it might take a little bit longer. If you want something that's very inexpensive, usually the quality is not going to be there, and neither is the speed. So keep that in mind, have realistic expectations. So rule number 1 is you actually want to start building your contractor list. You don't want to just talk to one contractor, right? So you want to start building a list so you can go through and pre-screen a lot of these contractors. So you want to ask your friends and acquaintances for references. You might want to build a quick spreadsheet and put all the names and the addresses. You might want to ask other contractors for references and see who they like working with. So for example, if you come across a great carpenter, you can ask him, which plumber he likes to work with, and so forth. You can also ask an employee of Lowe's or Home Depot who they like to use. You can also post on Facebook to start generating names as well. So rule number 2 is you actually want to pre-screen. So you want to pre-screen on the phone and in person. Are they professional? Are they timely? Do they respond to your questions well? You want to ask your potential contractors the following questions. So how long have you been in this line of work? What skills are you best at? What are some of the tasks you hate doing on a job site? Which areas do you specialize or focus on? Areas in the city as well. How far away in the city is too far? How many employees work for you? How far out are you booked? In what case would I need a permit, electrical or otherwise, digging permits? If I were to hire you, when can you actually start knocking off some of these tasks? So you actually want to set up a pre-meeting and see if they arrive on time, early, do they arrive late, how do they look, professional, and then you want to show them your project. So on the phone, you can kind of get a feel, right? So you'll call 5 to 10, and then you'll get a feel, and maybe you'll meet 2 or 3 in person. So this is why this pre-screening is very important. You don't want to waste your time meeting them in person if they can barely answer these questions appropriately on the phone. So another thing you want to do is you want to Google them, and you want to Google, let's say your contractor's name is John Doe. So you want to do John Doe Toronto scam, right? So you want to add your city. So John Doe Boston ripoff court lawsuit. So you want to see, have they been in court? You want to see if they have lawsuits against them and things like that. So Googling them will help you, find complaints and find red flags. Number 4, and this is very, very important. So not many people will do this step, but this step will save you a lot of money and pain. So please make sure you do it. You want to ask for references, but you actually want to take the time to drive to the previous job sites. So you want to go look at their previous work. The work will speak for itself, right? And the experience the other people had with that contractor will also give you a hint. So go look at their previous work. That's the biggest rule, right? It will take time, but it's very important. So keep in mind that even good positive reviews can actually be misleading. Expectations of quality vary from one homeowner to the other, right? So you might go to someone's house, someone that left a very positive review, but then you look at the job they did and it's actually not up to your standards, right? So it cuts both ways. So this is why you actually need to go see some of the work they've done, right? So go talk to the people and actually go see the current job site they're working on. Not some that they completed, years ago, but what they're working on right now. So is the job site clean? Are the people happy, etc.? And for the current job site, you want to find the homeowner that's paying for the job, ask them the same questions. What's working? What's your experience working with this contractor? Would you use them again? What about professionalism? Are they on time? Did you go over budget? Was there any specific issues? Things like that. So ask that of the previous client or the current client that he's working on. Also, an additional tip is you want to ask a contractor about a big project they've completed, and you want to figure out the address of that project, and you want to actually see if they pulled the permit for that project. So they might be bragging about a big project, we spent millions building this and it was 16 stories high. You actually want to make sure that they were, smart enough and diligent enough to get a permit from the city to do this project, this renovation, construction, and so forth. So rule number 5 is you want to verify, right? So you want to make sure that they have a license to do the work you intend them to do. So if it's a plumber, you want to make sure they have a plumbing license, electrician, general contractor, and so forth. You also want to make sure they have insurance. So you want to verify with their insurance agent and make sure that, John Doe actually has insurance for this type of work and so forth. Rule number 6, negotiation. And this one is, again, extremely important. It's on the same level as inspecting previous job sites and so forth. So you want to negotiate, especially for bigger projects. So you want to negotiate with your contractor. Otherwise, you are his servant. Here's what I mean. A standard contract provided by the contractor is a legal document that favors the contractors in every situation possible, right? Based on the contractor's previous issues, experience, his lawyer's experience, and so forth. So the contractor's contract has nothing talking about the benefits that happen to you if he messes up. So in bigger contracts, this is actually normal. So in bigger contracts, there are costs to the contractor if he's late, if he doesn't meet expectations, and so forth. So, as a homeowner, you might think that you're covered by the law, and you are, but you actually need legal resources to enforce it and or to get compensation. So you actually want to avoid ending up in small claims court, so you want to negotiate up front. So you want to protect yourself in advance. So here are some of the things you want to add to the contract. What time he's expected to be at work, how many hours a week is he expected to spend on your job site? Because remember, a contractor might have 2, 3, 4, 5 projects on the go, right? So how many hours is he expected to be on your specific project? If it's every day, have him sign a contract like, hey, I'll be there every day, 5 days a week, right? You also want him to sign the penalties for not meeting those expectations. So if one day, a Monday, he just decides to not show up, he should pay a penalty, right? So you want to make a list of all the things you're concerned about along with the corresponding penalties. And then when you meet, when it sounds like he's a good fit with the pre-screening, you both present your contracts and you begin to negotiate. You want to come to an agreement where you both have rights and responsibilities and compensation. So it's not going to be one-sided to the contractor. It's not going to be one-sided to you. It's going to be a negotiation where both of you guys have rights, compensation, and penalties if something happens. So keep in mind that if you are using your contractor's contract only, he's the only one getting compensated if something happens. Also, contractors not willing to sign off don't have the intention of fulfilling their duties, their contract, right? So if they intend of completing the job, especially if it's a bigger job, they should have no issues signing the contract. And the reality is that some contractors, they actually don't have the intention of fulfilling the contract. So they might promise, oh yeah, we'll be spending, 100 man hours a week or 200 man hours a week on your project. Some of them, what they do is they sign the contracts first and then they fill the job requirements with people after. So they don't actually have the capacity. So this is not good for you. You don't want that. Rule number 7, have a meeting schedule. So you want to set up a meeting schedule. If it's a small job, you want to meet them on site before they start and then meet them at the end of the day before they leave. Both the contractor and the homeowner need to be there on time or there's going to be consequences, right? The thing is, you need to be actively part of the management process, even if you hire a company. And part of that is to manage the meeting schedule. The thing is, with a meeting schedule, it keeps everyone on track and it allows you to spot things early. So if there's any issues, you can course correct very, very fast. Which leads me to rule number 8. You actually want to have weekly performance evaluations, right? So this is important. So basically, you want to look at your contract, the one that you negotiated up front, and write down everything they did, where they contravened the agreement, where there's issues, etc. And then you want to talk to your contractor about it, right? Good contractors, they cannot read your mind, so you want to make sure that you communicate effectively. And having that performance evaluation scheduled, it might be a Friday before they leave, so a Friday 2 p.m. or something like that. So for any issues, you want to write down all the back charges, fees, fine, compensation you're entitled to. And the contractor should do the same, right? So, maybe something happened and there's extra costs or they discovered something that's costing extra. So they need to factor that in as well. So it's not just one-sided. For extra charges of a certain level, like thousands of dollars, the contractor should be required to communicate with you, right? So you can actually put that in your contract, but you don't want your contractor to go ahead and make a $5,000 purchase on your behalf and expects you to pay it back right away the next week, right? So keep that in mind, put it in your contract and negotiate. Also, another point is mixed reviews on a contractor. They happen because both parties don't have healthy contracts and healthy expectations. So negotiating up front, making sure that both sides are covered and protected, and ensuring you have clear expectations and a meeting schedule is going to make sure that you have a healthy relationship with your contractor and actually the project gets done in a timely manner and on budget. So rule number 9, have an actual signed document. So it's good to have a contract, but it needs to be signed, right? So you can negotiate, but make sure it gets signed by both parties. And I would also use your own lawyer, spend a few $100s to have a lawyer review it. That money will save you a lot of trouble down the line, and especially if you have a bigger contract. If you're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars, what's an extra few $100s to have a professional lawyer review that contract for you? And also keep in mind that in Canada, if you sign a contract inside your own home, you actually have a week to change your mind. But if you sign at the contractor's office, so if you go to their place and you sign the contract, that's it, right? So, get the contractor to come to you, sign inside your house. That way you get that 1 week of extra buffer if anything changes or comes up after. So extra consideration. So if you're managing your own project, usually contractors don't get paid till the end. The more the contractor is managing the contract, the more you'll have to pay up front. So, but if you're managing your own contract, usually it's 10% up front and they'll get paid at the end. If they are buying materials for you, you'll actually have to provide additional funds for them to buy the materials, right? So if they're laying brick, don't expect them to pay for your brick. You'll have to pony up the cash for that. If you want to supply the material yourself, meaning like as the homeowner, you want to go to Home Depot, get the wood, get all that stuff, to save quote unquote money and time and all that stuff, it can be actually a double-edged sword. So here's what I mean, right? You need to deliver that wood or that brick or the material in general on time. You got to make sure it's the right quality, you have the right quantity, it's delivered on the right day and all that stuff, right? So it is a lot of hassle because if your contractor, you're paying him, let's say it's a Thursday, he's expecting the wood and there's a delay because you could not deliver that wood on the Thursday, well, you're still going to pay the contractor, right? So oftentimes it's better if you let the contractor supply the material. That way he's responsible for the delays and all that stuff. And remember, you have attached penalties, right? So it was up to him to coordinate the delivery of the wood. If that did not happen, it's his fault. You get compensated. So I would keep that in mind when you're writing your contract or negotiating your contract. Also, another thing is sometimes contractors, they have a lot of job sites. So you want to prevent them from dumping material from other jobs on your site. So put that in your contract, have a penalty, and actually you can put a wireless camera just to monitor, right? So if the contractor is aware that he's being monitored, he's less likely to dump stuff on your job site. In most projects, you want to pay by the job, not by the hour, right? So it's a set amount, let's say $10,000 for X. So if it's a smaller project, a handyman type of job, you want to pay by the hour. So a quick recap, a bad contract is where the contractor is the only one that presents a document. You have no protection. A good contract is one where all the details are outlined, who's going to be there, for how long, what time, the process of notifying you if there's any changes, and the consequences, right? The financial penalties of not maintaining a schedule and so forth. So again, here are the 9 rules. So rule number 1 is to build your contractor list. So don't just go with the first one, interview a few. You want to pre-screen to save yourself some time and spot red flags. Again, you want to Google them to spot red flags. You want to ask for references, but then you actually want to take the time to drive to the previous job site. Super important. Then you want to verify their credentials, their insurance. Do they have the licenses? Then another crucial step is negotiate. Negotiate that contract so both parties are protected and compensated if anything happens. You want to have a meeting schedule to keep things on track. You want to have weekly performance evaluations. This will allow you to spot problems and correct them in a timely manner. It's going to keep everyone on track and everyone's going to be happier. So make sure you do a weekly performance evaluation. And then again, you want to make sure you actually have a signed contract that is legally binding. So these are the 9 rules for hiring a contractor to make sure your project gets delivered on time, on budget, and with a minimum amount of hassle.